The Holistic Self-Assessment. Chapter 2. Principles. Question: what are my principles? A principle is a law, doctrine, assumption, or a concept that guides an individual's behavior. Sometimes people refer to this as a moral compass or a guide. A person who adheres to their principles is generally thought to have a strong sense of ethics. Of course, if the principles do not spring forth from an ethical foundation, the action that follows will also not be ethical. From the moment we are born, adults begin filling our heads with ideas of what they believe is right and wrong. Generally, most children are told that actions like lying, stealing, and hitting violate morality. Whether or not the adults live up to their own standards is another conversation altogether, but these simple rules typically establish a foundation upon which children build their principles. As children, we are often taught the golden rule, the principle of treating others as we would like to be treated. This principle has been stated time and time again in nearly every religion, as well as in psychology, sociology, and economics. It is a simple concept, the notion that it is wrong, immoral, unethical to treat other people in ways you yourself would not appreciate. Despite the prominence of this foundational principle, we live in a world where many people do indeed behave towards others in ways that they would not want others behaving towards themselves. If the majority of the world has been exposed to this concept via religion, politics, culture, and economics, why is it that we see violence, aggression, and deception in the world? What causes individuals to treat others with a lack of respect and compassion? I believe the problem lies, at least in part, with a lack of education. Children are sent to school to learn about math, history, science, and sometimes philosophy, but for the most part, children are not exposed to the concept of principled action. There are no tests or quizzes asking their young minds to reflect on what type of person they wish to be and the best ways to achieve these goals. Instead, the focus is on how to pump out as many graduates as possible who can regurgitate facts and follow their peers into the corporate workplace. Perhaps this is a vision of happiness for some, but definitely not for all. How much different would our society be if children were encouraged to understand what a principle is and to develop their own set of moral guidelines? Moreover, how would our world look if we were each raised not only to know and understand our principles, but also to stay true to them? Imagine the difference it would make if the celebrities and role models of our world were not movie or internet stars, but people known for having a strong ethical foundation and moral compass. This is why our journey is pausing to reflect on the meaning of principles and to ask, what are my principles? Personally, I have found the golden rule to be a great place to start establishing principles. We can do this by examining our actions and asking whether or not they align with this foundational guideline. Are you currently being dishonest with anyone in your life? Are you stealing from them? Are you treating anyone in a way you would not accept or appreciate? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, write down those situations and the specific behaviors. Spend a few minutes explaining why you would not want to be treated in such a way. Also, take a few moments to put yourself in the other person's shoes and consider how they might feel after being mistreated. Finally, it is of vital importance to take note of how you treat yourself. Do you show compassion and respect towards yourself? Do your life choices reflect this compassion and respect? In addition to the golden rule, I also adhere to the principle of self-ownership. This means I acknowledge that every human being is a free, beautiful, powerful, and capable person. I do not believe we need other people to tell us how to live, dress, think, eat, or love. I want the opportunity to live my life as I please, and I grant the same opportunity to every person I encounter. When taken in tandem with the golden rule, the principle of self-ownership guides us to allow each individual to live the life of their choosing as long as they are not violating the golden rule. If someone is living their own life as they see fit and not robbing, inflicting pain, or generally aggressing upon another free person, i.e., following the golden rule, then the principle of self-ownership compels me to leave them in peace. This is an example of my thought process as I reflect on my actions and the actions of others while keeping my principles in mind. The final principle I want to share is sometimes known as the seventh generation principle. The sentiment can be found throughout indigenous cultures and teachings around the world, but it is most often associated with the Iroquois or Haudenosaunee people of the North American continent. The Constitution of the Iroquois nations calls on tribal members to, quote, consider the impact on the seventh generation in every deliberation and action they take. The Constitution, sometimes known as the Great Binding Law or the Great Law of Peace, states, quote, in all of your deliberations in the Confederate Council, in all your efforts at lawmaking, in all your official acts, self-interest shall be cast into oblivion. Cast not over your shoulder behind you the warnings of the nephews and nieces should they chide you for any error or wrong you may do, but return to the way of the great law, which is just and right. Look and listen for the welfare of the whole people, and have always in view not only the past and present, but also the coming generations, even those whose faces are yet beneath the surface of the ground, the unborn of the future nation." End quote. At the heart of it, this principle asks us to consider the impact of our thoughts, words, and actions on the earth, people, and the world at large, as well as consider the ways our actions will affect the coming 7 generations. When incorporating the 7th generation principle into your daily habits, this simple but profound concept can alter the way you live your life and the choices you make. As the principle becomes a habitual part of your thought process, you may end up altering your diet, your relationships, your goals, and your entire life as you consider the effects of every choice you make. Exercise. Take a moment to reflect on the effect of living a life with these 3 principles as the guiding force. Write your thoughts in the space below. How would your life be different if you followed the golden rule? In what ways are you not currently living in line with the golden rule? What would happen if you recognized self-ownership for yourself and others? Do you believe that all people deserve the right to live their lives as they see fit, so long as they are not harming anyone else? How could your choices be different if you incorporated the 7th generation principle into your life? Are there any choices you are currently making that do not take future generations into consideration? What are they, and how can you change them? I believe these principles could radically alter our world if every single living person adopted them in a sincere fashion. They have been extremely valuable to me in my personal growth and journey, which is why I share them with you. However, there may be other principles that matter to you. Take a moment to reflect on the definition of a principle and ask yourself what other ones guide you. Upon reflection, you may find you are subconsciously being guided by principles that do not align with your truth. The goal, then, is to become conscious of the principles we have inherited that guide us and develop an understanding of them. If they do not serve who we are as people or who we are working to be, then it is likely time to reconsider and/or abandon them. Take the time to answer the questions in this chapter and use the space below to write down the principles that currently guide you and any changes you think you may need to make to start living the life of your dreams.